Thank you very much, Bill, and thanks to the organisers for putting this event on. Can you all hear me okay? You understand the southern accent all right? I want to say three things about the election last November. I know you're all political activists. I know you donate money, you knock on doors, you put up signs, you do a lot of hard, thankless work year in, year out. Was it all worthwhile on November the 8th last year, people? Thank you. Would you do it all over again to get the same result? Absolutely. Another thing, the Germans have a phrase, I love it, it's called Schadenfreude. It means taking pleasure in the pain of others. And it's not a very noble thing, right? But when you looked around the Democratic Party headquarters at 2 o'clock in the morning on election night, and you saw those little snowflakes bawling their eyes out and hugging each other, did you feel a little bit of Schadenfreude? Just a little bit? And who thinks the election may have had a touch of the miraculous about it, people? I think even an atheist would have to acknowledge that one. And one final little point. You know, I'm stealing my friend Malcolm McGough of the Election Integrity Project's line here. Which state in this country contributed more to Trump's election than any other? This one right here, people, because you had 330,000 volunteers in this state, 45,000 on any one day, phone banking into Florida and North Carolina and Ohio, I believe it was, and Michigan. That election was won from here, people. You have the manpower and the people and the Conservatives in this state to win it for the whole country. Well, I know darn well you've got it to win California back, folks. Now, I want people to understand the stakes that we're fighting for. Hillary Clinton, when she was running, she promised to legalize every single illegal immigrant in this country within 100 days of taking office. Now, I want you to think about the mathematics here, folks, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Mitt Romney lost his election by 2.5 million votes. Donald Trump won by about 200,000 votes and actually lost the popular vote. Just thank God for the Electoral College, people. There are between 12 and 40 million illegals in this country. We know that if they are given the vote, they will vote at least 80% Democrat. That is between 10 and 24, 26 million more Democratic Party voters. You are this close, people. You are that close to losing your country forever. That close. And I still think most Conservatives do not understand what is at stake here. We don't have 20 years, people. We don't even have 5 years. We have one bad election and it's all over. One bad election. See, that election in 2016 was the first game of the World Series. A miraculous victory, and I congratulate every one of you for it. Fantastic. But it was only the first game. And you don't declare victory and go home after the first game, do you? We have to win game 2, which is 2018. We have to win game 3, which is 2020, and game 4, which is 2022. And then we can think about a holiday, folks. Because have you ever seen as much vitriol directed toward the president as this one? Well, there are two reasons for it. I think one is very easy to understand, because those Democrats were so pumped up and so confident of victory that when on election night, when it all started going the wrong way, they felt like a bunch of kids who thought they were going to get the biggest bike you've ever seen for Christmas, and they got a pair of socks. And they are bitter and angry. They're fired up. The other reason I think is more malicious and more dangerous, because you see, if you're a Democrat, you own the black population, right? You own those white union guys out in Pennsylvania. You own the minorities. But when President Trump went into the black communities and said, I don't see a lot of jobs here, people. I see a lot of poverty and dependency and drug addiction. Why don't you vote for me? What do you got to lose? And a whole bunch of them said, hell yeah. And they did. And when he went out to those white union guys in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I said, I don't see what NAFTA and the Democrats have done for you. I see a lot of closed down factories, a lot of hopelessness. Why don't you vote for me? We'll bring the jobs back to the Rust Belt. And they changed their patterns of a lifetime and they flipped. And I've got to congratulate President Trump, by the way, for putting tariffs on steel and aluminium. I am a free trader to the bootstraps, people, but you have to protect your defense industries. You can't go running to China for steel and aluminium when they are your number one enemy. So this is where the Democrats are. Their base is crumbling. They can't depend on the black vote. They can't depend on the white union vote. So where have they got to get it? They got to keep bringing those Democrats across the border, folks. Tens of millions of them across the border. And if they are elected again, that's exactly what they'll do. They will completely destroy your base forever, and they will have a one-party state. It only takes one bad presidential election to do that. So we have to win 2018, because if we don't, President Trump gets impeached. He gets tied up in knots for a couple of years, and then the Democrats will storm back. And this is their plan for winning, folks. Who remembers the old Rainbow Coalition of the 1980s, Jesse Jackson, right? Well, they are going to run that again. That was the idea. You get the progressive whites, progressive blacks, progressive Latinos, progressive Asian Americans, Muslim Americans, gay Americans, yellow, brown, lavender, pink, the Rainbow Coalition. Well, there's a man out of California, in Northern California, named Steve Phillips. He was a Maoist communist at Stanford University in the 80s. He was a member of the Rainbow Coalition. It was a complete Maoist-run operation. He left college, all his friends went into the Democratic Party, and he married into the Sandler family from Northern California, multi-billionaire Democrat donors. He set up a group called Power Pack. They were the first people to fund Barack Obama, and they have been funding candidates of colour all over this country. They have also been working with Our Revolution and other Marxist groups to sign up hundreds of thousands of black, Latino, and Muslim voters in the southern states, specifically Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Florida. So their plan is very simple. We smash President Trump. You denigrate him, you impeach him, you slow him down, you split his base. You do everything you can to turn the American voter off President Trump. Then in 2020, you run the Rainbow Coalition strategy, going after the black, Muslim, Latino, and low-income voters in the southern states. And if they flip Florida, which has now had 150,000 Puerto Ricans moved in there, and they flip Arizona, and they flip Georgia, they win. Now, I'm going to tell you who the candidates are going to be, people, because at Stanford University, there was the Marxists had a friend, a football player who used to hang around with them. He is now the senator from New Jersey. His name is Cory Booker. He's going to be on the ticket, people. The other person, they had a young woman who used to hang around with the radicals, a woman called Maya Harris. You may know her sister, Kamala Harris. They are going to run Kamala Harris on the top of the ticket. They're going to reinvigorate the Rainbow Coalition strategy, And they are aiming to win with 51, 52, 53% of the vote. And then they're going to legalise every illegal immigrant in the country. And then they're going to open up the doors to third world and Islamic refugee resettlement and swamp this country forever. Please do not think you have the luxury of a 10, 20-year plan, folks. You have got to win every election coming up now. Because if you do that, you are going to completely destroy their agenda. If President Trump strings 3 or 4 in a row, the taxes are going to be down, the economy is going to be flooding with money from overseas, you're going to be drilling your own oil, the border wall is going to be built, young black kids are going to get jobs again in their own communities, and you will have prosperity like you've never seen. And the Democrats will be out of power for 50 years, people. They'll be done. That is why they are so absolutely committed to destroying this president. Because if they can destroy this president, they will rule this country forever. But if this president is successful and the economy booms and we restore the Constitution and we get a couple more good Supreme Court justices, they're going to be out of power for decades. They understand their survival is at stake, people. So we have a very clear choice. We sort of take it casual and not do too much and hope things go well in 2018 and 2020, or we buckle down, folks. We treat this next election as the most important one of our lives, because it damn well is, folks. It absolutely is. So California, we've got the election integrity project. The big problems you have with California is the vote fraud and the sanctuary cities, right? So you've got the election integrity project working hard to cut down on the vote fraud. There are cases pending done by Judicial Watch and Landmark who are coming into the state to actually sue officials for both criminal and civil charges. And when you see the first one of these go to jail, folks, you will see the reduction of vote fraud all across this country. When the first Californian official wears an orange jumpsuit because of vote fraud, that problem is going to be massively reduced. Now, my good friend Ben Berquim from Fresno is organising the Stop Sanctuary States project. So they are going after the ballot initiative to make sanctuary cities illegal. You've also got, obviously, Jeff Sessions going after them. There's a concerted effort by the Trump administration to get on top of these problems in California. So you are like the French resistance. You're behind enemy lines. You're blowing up post offices or whatever. You are derailing trains. You're tying down the Nazis. But you have got the boys storming the beaches at Normandy coming to help you out, folks. You have got the big guns coming to help you out in this state. You've got some of the most conservative candidates you've seen on your slate for some time. You've got the public mood that's completely disgusted with the Jerry Brown agenda. You have a great opportunity here in this state to make big gains in this election cycle. You've got the best opportunity you've had for a long time, and you don't even have to worry about Charlie Munger anymore. Okay? So you are really, really in a good position. How California goes is how America goes, and how America goes is how the world goes, folks. I come from a country that was saved by your fathers and uncles and grandfathers at the battles of Guadalcanal and the Coral Sea and Midway. We were facing invasion by the Japanese, folks, and your fathers and uncles stopped them stone cold dead. So I'm right behind California now and changing this around. I know you can do it. And I want to make one little suggestion. See, what the left is doing around the country now, they are nationalising all these little elections. They got a state rep seat in Alabama or whatever. They put a whole bunch of resources from all over the country to win that seat. From all over. They spend thousands of dollars to win a seat that's normally a $10,000 budget. So what you got to do, I think, is when those primaries are over, you got to make sure that Mark Musa becomes the Secretary of State in this state, because he's going to be controlling the elections from then on out. Very, very strategic, very important. Then when the primaries are over, I want you to hold another convention like this one. I'll come and talk to you. And then you look at all the seats up in California. You look at all the races, and you look at the ones that are 2 hours running in the top. You leave those to that. Leave them alone. You look at the hopeless ones. You leave those alone. You pick 6 congressional races you can win. You pick 6 assembly races you can win. And you pick 6 state senate races you can win. And independently of the GOP, you hold a conference and you agree which ones you're going to go after, and you divide up the resources and you phone bank and you organise and put a whole bunch of resources into those races and none other. Just be sensible about it and strategic about it. You saved America, folks. You saved this country by putting your 330,000 volunteers into North Carolina and Florida and Michigan. Well, now is the time to save California. You have got all these conservatives out there. You just need to concentrate your guns on certain races that are winnable. Forget the ones you've already won. Forget the ones you cannot win. Find the ones that are within 4 or 5 points in marginal districts that have good conservatives running, and you fly the flag of conservatism and you be proud about it, and you direct all your resources into those races. Does that make sense, folks? So I want to say to you folks, you know, I come to this state on a regular basis. I'd love to live here, but I can't afford it. You know, but I think there are enough patriots here and enough resources here that intelligently harnessed and intelligently focused, you can win 6 or 7 congressional races this time. You can win 8 or 10 assembly races that you don't already have, and a whole bunch more Senate races. You will start to flip the balance back your way. And if you get that momentum going in this cycle, you can make huge gains in 2020. And you understand that President Trump has to keep the House in this election, and he has to keep the Senate and increase his majority. So your job is to give the president more conservatives in the House and increase your majorities. You imagine what President Trump could do if he didn't have to put up with John McCain and Susan Collins and, you know, Lisa Murkowski. My friend Jack Posobiec tweeted the other day, said, look, when Senator McCain has to stand down, there's a good chance that the Senate seat in Arizona could go Republican. So we have a chance of doing that, folks. You imagine what this country is going to be like if President Trump has 6 or 7 real conservatives in the Senate to back him, another 8 or 10 or 20 real conservatives, including a whole bunch from your state, to back him in the House. You imagine what he'll be able to get done, folks. You imagine the prosperity that will bring, the liberty that will bring, the inspiration that will bring, not just to your countrymen, but to those fighting for freedom in other countries. You saw how quick it was that Ronald Reagan turned around Jimmy Carter's mess, folks. Didn't take long, did it? How many 60s hippies in the room right today who became good conservatives because of Ronald Reagan? I bet there's one or two. You know, few are admitting it. So look, this is your mission, folks. You've got to save California and contribute enough people to the House to make sure we keep the House and that President Trump has the people he needs to do what you elected him to do. Are you willing to accept that mission, people? Thank you. Well, I just want to say to you folks, thank you so much for what you do for liberty, for America and my country. God bless America and God bless California. Thank you.